You're listening to My Comic Life on the My Comic Life Podcast Network. Welcome back to My Comic Life, folks. That's right, My Comic Life, your number one podcast for all things geek, nerd, comic, video games, movies, TV, pop culture. If you're into that, stop. You have found the podcast for you. I'm your host, Sam, and joining me each week in the My Comic Life studio, well, folks, what can I say? He's the only person I know who translated the Tobin Spirit Guide from Latin to Elvish to Cleon just because he had some free time on a Friday night. Alex, say hello to the folks out there.
Yeah, it's all part of the my learning process, man. It's on my Tinder profile. I don't get a whole lot of hits up through it, but I try my hardest. But folks out there, how are you doing this week? Very excited to bring you guys a great show. A lot of good big news that went on this week. Sam, how you doing?
Doing well, sir. Doing well. Just getting ready for this Thanksgiving holiday we have coming up here. Gonna take some of that off time and get caught up on some reading and some gaming that I've been missing out on. What about you there, Alex?
Same, man. Same. I'm very excited. This is one of my favorite holidays of the year. I love the food, love the family. Um, the whole idea of Thanksgiving is really good. You just kind of just eat as much as you can and just kind of go into one of them little food comas while the Dallas Cowboys get their shit rocked. So that's what I look forward to the most.
All right. Well, boogity, 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 boys, let's get gaming. That's right. We are going to talk about something that is sometimes sorely overlooked here on My Comic Life video games. The Video Game Awards 2021 is coming up December 9th, live from Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles. The Game Awards recognizes and upholds creative and technical excellence in the global video game industry. This week, the 2021 nominees were announced, and fans are able to vote right now on thegameawards.com. Now, we here at My Comic Life fancy ourselves as a couple of gaming connoisseurs, so we will be going through a few of the top categories and giving our thoughts on the nominees. So, first up out of the gate, Best Ongoing. The Best Ongoing category is awarded to a game for outstanding development of ongoing content that evolves the player's experience over time. Nominees include Apex Legends, Final Fantasy XIV Online, Fortnite, Genshin Impact, and Call of Duty Warzone. I gotta say, it's a pretty tough category as there are more than a few heavy hitters in the running. Alex, just first question here. Have you played any of these games?
Yeah, I'm a pretty like I guess a little bit more than casual kind of gamer, but I'll play the hell out of some Warzone, man. That used to be my game. Too bad, it's been kind of there's a lot of problems with the player base right now. A lot of like hacks and stuff. Hopefully, it's gonna get fixed. Um, Now that Vanguard is out and they instituted a PC anti cheat, so hopefully that's gonna get fixed, and I can go back to having fun in that game. I used to play Fortnite pretty heavily, like I don't know. This is probably like 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, something like that. Whenever it came out and it was super duper popular, that's when I started playing, and now it's just to the point where I can't. That game is for the young kids, dude. I cannot play that game at all. I will take one shot at somebody. Next thing I know, they've got the whole Taj Mahal built out of like out of out of sticks and stuff. So I can't. And Apex Legends, I did play. That's also one, man. That's for they the twitch and the fast reflexes and stuff that you have on that game are just insane. It's a little bit too. I know I could probably eventually get it if I kind of stuck with it, but it's just frustrating to the point where it's like it's just not for me. The other two I've never played, and Genshin Impact I've never actually even heard of. So, but yeah, that's pretty much my experience with these, on with these games that are in this category. What about you, Sam? Do you have any experience with them?
I'll just go down the list here. Apex Legends, never played. Final Fantasy 14 online. My buddy Chase keeps trying to get me to play this one. He's almost sold me on it. So I think I'm going to finally give that one a look see. Like you, I've played Fortnite maybe a handful of times. Like I can count on one hand the number of times I've played Fortnite. Like I would log on and play with like one of my friends, and I would log on and play with my nephew. But like I don't know. I don't think I play in the right spirit of that game. Like I just try to like find weapons and like hang out on like the edge of that ever closing circle. Occasionally I'll try to build a house, but I'll just look for existing structures and I'll just hide out in them, letting everybody kill themselves, until like I'm down to like the final four or final three if I haven't been, taken out by somebody. And then, with some like noob weapon, like I'll try to kill somebody, in like the final three or final four. But yeah, like I said, I don't think I play in the right spirit of that game. It's just what works for me. Like you, Genshin Impact, I've never heard of, so I can't comment on that. Call of Duty Warzone, man, I used to play that a lot back during like the heavy days of like the pandemic. Me and some friends in Grapevine, Texas. Shout out to my friends out there. We would get online and do like a three, like a three team, versus game, just like final three or final eight, win the game. And I was so at that. I got killed a lot. Usually I was first one to die on my team, and I always felt bad for that. But luckily my friends always think, no, it's fine, man. We always need somebody to take the bullet for the team, and apparently I was always that guy. I will say I started playing more like solo on that game, just in like my spare time because I was like I got to get better. I got to quit being like the weak link on my team. And toward the end of my time with that game, I just haven't picked it up in a few months. I was making it to like the final five or like final eight in that game, but again, though, I feel like my gameplay style for Call of Duty Warzone, just would annoy a lot of people because again, like I would just pick up some heavy ass machine gun, get like a grenade launcher as a backup, pick up a mine or two, and like I would lock myself in like a convenience store or like a room in like a hotel, and like I would like
Oh no.
yes, and I would like mine the doorway and like mount my machine gun on like the counter, and just wait. Like I'm a very patient person when it comes to this game, and I'd be like, I dare anyone to come into this room. And I don't think like once again, I don't think that's the spirit of Warzone. Like I'm pretty sure you're supposed to be like running and gunning and not just like hiding out. Um, but Alex, what do you look for in ongoing content, and who do you think is going to win this category?
Oh man. First, can we just back up real quick
Oh
and
yeah,
talk
sure.
about how you just totally just admitted to camping here live on the radio.
Yeah.
That's something I just never knew about you there, Sam. And then two, this whole idea, like I envision in my head of you just putting the cap on backwards and just having a straight up montage trying to get better at that game. Like that's some good stuff right
Oh
there, dude.
yeah.
And I hope all of you that are listening also envisioned it in your head with me. But to answer your question, what do I look for in ongoing content? Basically, just listening to your player base, man. I mean, like I said, Warzone is notorious for kind of like a lot of people's complaints and everything for whatever reason. Maybe it's a lot easier said than done, or it's difficult to program these kind of fixes and stuff. But um, at least it seems like Fortnite and Apex, they seem like the kind that listen to their player base and kind of um, help them communicate with them on the subreddits and the discords and everything like that, and they want to make the game a better experience for the player because they know that a better experience for the player brings more players, brings more pockets, so um, that's probably what I look for the most in when it comes to ongoing content, not necessarily like skins or weapon camos or anything like that, but just like I said, just try and keep the game fresh and listen to your player base. But who do I think is going to win this category? I think Apex has kind of done a lot this year to kind of really boost themselves. So I would say Apex, and Yeah, I think they're kind of almost like heads and shoulders above the rest of them as far as um, creating a good experience for their player base. What about you, Sam?
Well, yeah, first of all, yeah, turn that hat backwards, cue the, 80s Hearts on Fire or Eye of the Tiger, yeah, and just, yeah, cue the 80s montage of me trying to get better at Call of Duty Warzone. I got a hair better. What do I look for in ongoing content? Kind of actually the opposite of you. Like, for a game like Final Fantasy 14 Online, like I would want like like new clothes or like new skins and like new weapons. For a game like Call of Duty Warzone, again, I want to see ever evolving weapons. Like I don't want just like different camo patterns that I can attach to my gun, but like I want newer and like evolved sights on my gun, or and just different weapon styles, or just like newer weapons that I can like mod out my players with. And like you, listen to your fan base, evolve the storyline if you can. Give us new levels and new arenas to try out and play in. Those are the things that I really look for in ongoing content. Who do I think is going to win in this category? I think it's either going to be Fortnite or Call of Duty Warzone. Both those seem to have loyal, rabid fan bases, and if this is a fan vote led contest here, like we mentioned above, I'm pretty sure it will come down between Warzone and Fortnite. But we will find out which one of us is right. Uh,
Yeah.
but moving on to the next category, most anticipated game. Now, most anticipated game recognizes an announced game that has demonstrably illustrated potential to push the gaming medium forward. This category includes Elden Ring, an upcoming action role playing game developed as a collaborative effort between From Software, who did Dark Souls and Bloodborne, and fantasy novelist George R. R. Martin, who wrote A Song of Ice and Fire, or better known as the guy who wrote the Game of Thrones books. Next, we have God of War Ragnarok, an upcoming action adventure game developed by Santa Monica Studio and a direct sequel to the 2018 Game Awards Game of the Year, God of War. Next up, Horizon Forbidden West, an upcoming action role playing game developed by Guerrilla Games featuring an open world in a post apocalyptic Western United States. And again, we have the so far untitled sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. From Nintendo, this is yet to be titled sequel to the 2017 Game Awards Game of the Year, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And finally, Starfield, an upcoming action role playing video game and the first new franchise developed by Bethesda in over 25 years. Man, we thought the last category was tough, but this one seems almost impossible to decide. A few of these are sequels. Did you play any of the originals, Alex? And if so, does that affect your hype level for these upcoming games?
From these, I guess the only two new entries is Elden Ring and Starfield, right? So I did play. I played God of War. I played Horizon Zero Dawn, and I also played Breath of the Wild. And yeah, I mean, you got to be crazy to not think that if you play the originals, you definitely get hyped up for the sequels, especially something like God of War and Horizon Forbidden West, because they are like direct sequels, and even more so with God of War because it's supposed to be like minutes after the first game. Basically, is where this one picks up. So, um, I think that if you are familiar with the content, if you're familiar with the franchise, then it does kind of lend to the hype because you do want to see what's next in store for these characters that you've learned to love. How about you, Sam? Are you familiar with one of these, two of these? How many have you played? How many have you seen? What do you got going on over there?
Again, I'll go down the list here. Elden Ring. I mean, I think I've seen like a teaser image for it. That's all I know. God of War Ragnarok, I'm really looking forward to because I played and beat God of War and just thought, man, that was an amazing game. Uh, really loved it. It was challenging, but not impossible. There were a few times that I almost like rage through my controller. Win all Kratos on my controller and nearly like rage through it against the wall. But that's more of my own. Like I wasn't gaming the right way. But no, I genuinely actually really enjoyed God of War. Thought it was a blast. It's a fantastic game. Horizon Forbidden West. I'm looking forward to. I gotta say, and I feel like somebody should like slap my hand here. Horizon Zero Dawn, the prequel to this game. I've started it for 3 to 4 different times, and I've just never been able to, or like had the patience to stick with it and finish it. Like I'm always like, okay, this is the time. Like now is the time.
God, it drags, doesn't it? The same thing happened to me, man.
I mean, no, I mean like it's an engaging storyline, and I like the open world, but yeah, it just I don't know, man. Like something in it, like it just stretches a little too long for me in places, and so like I keep losing it, and I'm like, okay, eighth time, the time is nigh. I'm going to sit down and do this.
You've all forgotten the buttons and
No,
shit.
yeah, yeah. That's my problem. Is like I'll get to like not even halfway. I'm talking maybe like a third of the way through this game. Like I'll save it, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna pick up this for like a couple of months, and then like 8 months later, I'm like, shit, I forgot the storyline and the controls of this game. Time to go back to the beginning. The Untitled Legend of Zelda sequel. I mean, I've seen my friends play it. I would love to try it. Hey, Nintendo, I don't have a Switch. If you send me a Switch, I will positively review your console for you right here on My Comic Life, and I will happily review Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So, come on, Nintendo, send me a Switch. Send the gang at My Comic Life some Switches, and we will happily promote your product here and your games. Starfield sounds cool, Bethesda's a pretty solid software, and gaming developer. But yeah, I can't really say, much about Starfield. Uh, was there anything left off this list that surprised you, Alex?
I think before we did the show when we were doing rehearsal, both of us were like, we're not. When it came to this, when this question came up, we were both like, well, maybe we're not as big of gamers as we think because we had to bust out the list and
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
look down what had been released this year. For me, I guess the one that I found that I was surprised was left off of this was, um, I guess I'd say Back for Blood because I mean the game has its problems and but at the same time it's still a ton of fun and I love playing that game. I loved the Left 4 Dead franchise that the game is kind of based on, and it's just kind of more of that. And anytime I get the opportunity to just get on there with my buddies and kind of just slay zombies and have a lot of fun and progress through the levels is, it's definitely up there. And I had a lot of fun playing it. So probably Back for Blood for me would be the one that I was surprised was left off this list. What about you, Sam? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, the one that surprised me that was left off this list was Gotham Knights. With the success of the Batman Arkham franchise and me being a huge fan of that franchise as well. In fact, I would love to see more, HD, re-releases of that one or, just even more sequels. Yeah, I was surprised a game like Gotham Knights was left off this list. I know we haven't seen a ton, but I mean, we've seen at least one or two trailers and gotten some idea of how the gameplay is going to be and what the story is going to be about. And we've even talked about it in previous episodes. So, yeah, that's the big one for me right there is Gotham Knights being left off the list. Um,
That's a good choice, man, because that game is fire. And I have to apologize. I got mixed up in what the category was. Yeah, I would 100% totally agree with you. Gotham Knights should be on this list. It looks like a ton of fun. It makes it co-op. It adds something to the franchise. It adds something to the gaming community, and it definitely deserves to be up here.
so question here: who is your pick to win the most anticipated game?
Man, do I go with my heart or do I go with my head? I guess since we're doing some kind of quasi contest with this, I'm gonna go with my head, and I'm gonna pick God of War Ragnarok is definitely gonna win this category. I think it's gonna win it like by far, just because the amount of hype that is around this franchise. I mean, this when you look at it, I know that Zelda has never really put out a bad game. There've been some lackluster ones, but they've never put out a bad one. But God of War, that Santa Monica Studios has not put out a bad God of War game, and every single game has just gotten better and better and better, and it's added something to it. So I definitely feel like God of War Ragnarok will be running away with this category. What about you, Sam?
Oh, couldn't agree more. My vote goes to God of War Ragnarok. Like you said, I mean, I started playing God of War back on what, PS1, PS2. I believe it was a PS2 game. Yeah, so I mean,
Yes.
I've been following this franchise from like the very first God of War up until now. And you're right. They have not produced a bad God of War game. Some really challenging and hard God of War games, yes, and a really convoluted storyline at times. Um, but not but not a bad game. Really amongst them. So God of War Ragnarok gets my vote. Second place vote for me, of course, would go to. Even though I haven't finished it, I still tip my hat to it. Horizon Forbidden West would be my second place vote on that one. But yeah, I got to give it to God of War Ragnarok. Really looking forward to it. Especially, I'm not going to spoil it, but like the ending of that game when some big
Oh wow.
when some big stuff is revealed. Yeah, definitely excited to see where that next game takes us. All right, moving to our third category, we are at Game of the Year. Game of the Year recognizes a game that delivers the absolute best experience across all creative and technical fields. Nominees for this category include Deathloop, developed by Arcane Studios, who before have done Dishonored and Prey. In Deathloop, an assassin finds himself stuck in a time loop and has been tasked to take out 8 targets across an island before midnight, as leaving even one alive will cause the time loop to reset. Next up is It Takes Two, and I will spare you guys from me busting into song here of It Takes Two to make to make a thing all right. It takes two to make it out of sight. Okay, no, actually, I
Oh my
didn't.
god.
I didn't spare you guys from me busting into song. I actually did it. All right. Yes, It Takes Two from Hazel Light Studios, who before this did a game called A Way Out. It Takes Two is an action adventure video game with elements from platform games. It is specifically designed for split screen cooperative multiplayer. Next up, we have Metroid Dread, developed by Mercury Steam, who did Castlevania Lord of Shadows. Players control bounty hunter Samus Aran as she investigates the source of a mysterious transmission on the planet ZDR. Also, we have Psychonauts 2 from Double Fine. Psychonauts 2, like the first game, finds players controlling Raz, a young acrobat that is training to become a psychonaut, a member of the international task force that uses their psychic abilities to stop those that perform nefarious deeds with their own psychic forces. Next up also is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, a third-person shooter platform game developed by Insomniac Games and is the 16th installment. Dang! You heard that you heard that right, folks. The 16th installment in the Ratchet and Clank series. And finally,
Good god.
I know, we have Resident Evil Village, a survival horror game developed by Capcom and is the direct sequel to the 2017 Resident Evil Biohazard. First up, do you have any experience with any of these games, Alex?
Okay, so I didn't buy any of these games. I wanted to buy Resident Evil Village, but I feel like, once you I don't know if any of you out there are a PC gamer, but once you kind of buy a PC and you realize that games are like $40, it makes it difficult to pay for a game when it's like $60. So, um, I ended up skipping Resident Evil Village. Because I knew I would just, if I'm not gonna pay $60 and play a game once and then just shelve it. Like that's not, you know, I'm not, my comic life doesn't pay me that much. So, uh, I have seen people play It Takes Two online. I've watched a full playthrough of that. I have not seen much else. I think I did see a speed run of Psychonauts 2, and I am familiar with the Ratchet and Clank series. I mean, how can you not? I mean, 16 games prior, we've all probably played one, at least one. So that's my experience with these games. What about you, Sam?
For me, the only one I've played on this list is Resident Evil Village because I'm a huge fan of the Resident Evil franchise. You know, been playing the games since Resident Evil 2. They're all fantastic games. Uh, Deathloop sounds interesting. I saw the trailer for it. It looked like a lot of fun. Can't say I know much about It Takes Two. I have played one or two levels of Metroid games, and that's just because I've never had a next gen Nintendo system. The NES was my first system, but beyond that, I pretty much went from that to Sega to PlayStation and Xbox, and I've been a solid PlayStation and Xbox guy ever since then. Again, Nintendo, I know you're out there listening. If you want to send me a Switch, I will again happily review games like Metroid Dread and Legend of Zelda. We are not above nepotism here on My Comic Life. Just kidding.
That's right.
I remember Psychonauts 2 kind of being like an indie hit on PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 1, and the concept always sounded really interesting to me. In fact, just reading this description, I may go download and play Psychonauts 2. It sounds pretty cool. Again, I've played demos of various Ratchet and Clank games, like when I used to, when I used to be at like Best Buy or Target. Uh, I was just always like just a little too old for that game, so I never bought one. I mean, the concept always looked cool, and I had fun playing the demos, but I was just always wanting to buy other games like Resident Evil or Grand Theft Auto. So yeah, never really played a full Ratchet and Clank game. Uh, were you surprised to see anybody included, Alex, or were you surprised to see anybody left off this list?
Okay, so this is originally where I was gonna have my Back for Blood rant, but I had gotten confused on where we were in. Um, so I will say, am I surprised to see anybody included? I think I don't know. I guess there are some on here where like your Psychonauts 2 and your Metroid Dread, where I don't know why they were. I've never played them, so I don't know if they're really that good to be Game of the Year contenders. And I think it just boils down to it being kind of a down year for games. I mean, this is in the wake of the pandemic, and it was like everybody had shut down, everything had pushed back, and it's like we just got out of a giant lull when it came to video game. Like I said, I've been playing Warzone for a year and a half, and it's like I've never played a single game for that long in my entire life. Um, am I surprised did anybody got left off? Like I said, a Back for Blood for me personally, because I love that style of game. Maybe I could see, I don't know if they would want to put a perhaps Guardians of the Galaxy, that new one from Marvel. I heard that one was very good. I watched a playthrough of that, and it seemed like it was a lot of fun. Um, that'd probably be my pick as to see of that I was surprised to see left off. Did you have any thoughts on this, Sam?
I mean, I was surprised by Psychonauts and Ratchet and Clank, especially because like Psychonauts has always been touted. Like I said, it's kind of like this like little indie game that could. So to see them on this list of Game of the Year was surprising. I mean, it's a happy surprise for me. I just was not expecting Psychonauts 2 or Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Games that got left off that I thought at least might make this list. Hitman 3, I haven't played it yet, but it has a fairly loyal, following and fan base, especially for there to be three of these games. And Far Cry 6. I was a big fan of Far Cry 5. I came to that game a little late, but definitely did, a solid playthrough on it and really enjoyed it. And I thought, Far Cry 6 was possibly at least going to make this list. So those two right there, yeah, like I said, Hitman 3 and Far Cry 6, I was surprised on um, were not on the list. What do you think of when you think of Game of the Year, Alex?
It have to, like I said, it's got to be something that really, like, I just come away and I'm just like, wow, that was worth my money. It was worth my time, and I had a blast. Like, I'm talking, your original Modern Warfare, Modern Warfare 2. Great storytelling. Like we were talking about before, the 2018 God of War. Even the 2017, Legend of Zelda. I loved the hell out of that game. I put like 300 hours into that game in like the first 2 months of it being released. Like, it was just like, because it was on Switch and it was portable and it just never left my hands. It was almost like a great book. Like, you just can't put it down. Um, and then, of course, I always measure every single game of the year against my personal favorite like game of all time, and that's the Legend of Zelda, the Ocarina of Time,
Wow.
and that to me is like just the perfect game. Like, it was so much fun to play, and it was my childhood. That was like a milestone for me. Um, so that's what I look at when I think of game of the year. Do you have any kind of big shoes to fill like that, or do you just kind of you know take a look at it, take a look at the list and kind of throw darts at the screen?
Oh no, game of the year for me, like it has to be on the level of kind of like you said, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, or something like Red Dead Redemption, or Red Dead Two, there, or something like along the lines of Grand Theft Auto Five when it first came out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, any of those games, and I'm sorry if I botched the Red Dead name. But yeah, Red Dead Two. Um, yeah, it has to be on par with those. I mean, like massive, immersive worlds, like challenging, fun levels, engaging storylines. Fun little pickups and power ups along the way that make the game even more fun. It's got to be something on like the level of those games for me to when I think of like judging game of the year. That being said, Alex, who do you see taking this category?
Um, I would love to see a game, one of the new kind of, because you got Resident Evil Village, Ratchet and Clank, Rift Apart, Psychonauts 2, Metroid Dread. Those are all kind of sequels, and they're all from franchises. And It Takes Two is kind of a brand new game, or a brand new production from a kind of not necessarily small, but not like your EAs or your 343 studios. And Deathloop itself is also, that's a introduction to a possible franchise. I'd like to see either one of those two take Game of the Year personally for me. Who I think is going to take it? Ooh, man, I'm gonna vote for It Takes Two. Like, if you've never actually watched like that game you played and seen like the kind of um, the story that it tells and the undertones that it has, it is really it gets very emotional, and you can't let the kind of cute little dolls fool you and stuff like that. The game deals with some very heavy topics of, like, relationship issues and divorce, and how that affects the family and everything, like, and how it affects the children. So I think because of that, it was just like it was a brand new kind of game to me. And it also, it's a platformer, which was, those are always a lot of fun. And it's a split screen cooperative, which is, it's meant to be played with someone that that you feel is, there's no like matchmaking, so you have to have somebody that you vibe with, that you love to game with, and that's your partner in that game. And it's just like, it's all that extra shit. It kind of just makes it a game of the year to me. And in like I said, not to like belittle any of these games, but I just feel like, it's just kind of 2021 is just kind of a kind of down year for gaming personally. What about you, Sam? Which game do you see taking it?
What game I would like to see win is Resident Evil Village, just because I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. What game do I think is going to win? I think it's Deathloop. Like I said, I've seen gameplay trailers and I've seen a lot of hype and just a lot of positive press out there about Deathloop. So I think Deathloop is going to take it. But like I said, would love to see Resident Evil Village, kind of be the dark horse here and come from behind and win it all. That or Psychonauts too, just to prove that like indie studios and indie games uh, can win big awards as well. That would be nice to see for me. But hey, Xbox, Sony, Nintendo, please send us your systems here at My Comic Life, and we will happily review your systems and review these games for you, and give our massive audience our thoughts on the Xbox, the PlayStation 5, and the Nintendo Switch. Send us your systems. We here are happy and waiting and would love to review your systems and review your games as well.
Absolutely. But Sam, really quick here, before we move on, in the show's note you can see the links for the voting.
Mm-hmm.
You click on one of those really quickly,
Okay.
and then it should bring you up to the thegameawards.com. We already told you all. You guys can go there and you can vote for yourselves. But if you click on view all categories,
Yes.
and in the top right you see best score in music.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a game I've never heard of, The Artful Escape, Cyberpunk 2077, Deathloop, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, and I don't know how to say that. Nair Replicant? I don't know. Version 1. And then there's like a shitload of numbers. But who do you think takes it for music?
Oh man, I assume that would come down between either Guardians of the Galaxy or Cyberpunk 2077. Those two just seem
Oh,
like.
see, we think exactly alike.
I was about to
Man.
say, yeah. Let's say,
That's
who do you think?
I 100% agree with you because I think Guardians is notorious for great music, and then Cyberpunk to just have that kind of futuristic rock band. I mean the whole
Yeah, I mean, because like, aren't
kind
you
of
playing as like
game.
a spirit of like a rock star or like rock and roll?
Yeah, Johnny Silverhand.
Yeah, I
Like
was
an
to say.
ex, he was like the biggest rock star in the world. So I think it's between those two. I honestly think they're probably going to give it to Cyberpunk because I feel like they're going to give Guardians like best narrative or storytelling because that game, the story that they do tell in that game is really good. So I think personally, it's probably going to go to Cyberpunk.
I agree. I mean, once again, total agreement. Cyberpunk's going to win for best soundtrack or best song in the video games for sure. But all right, there, folks. Moving from video games, well, it just wouldn't be a My Comic Life show unless we dipped our toes into just a little bit of that Marvel pool here. This week, wow, we got Spider-Man 2.0. And again, I will say, wow. Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures dropped a doozy of a trailer this week for the upcoming, highly anticipated Spider-Man No Way Home. The nearly 3-minute trailer is filled to the brim with web-swinging, high-flying, pulse-pounding action, as for the first time in the cinematic history of Spider-Man, our friendly neighborhood hero's identity is revealed, bringing his superhero responsibilities into conflict with his normal life and putting those he cares about most at risk. When he enlists Doctor Strange's help to restore his secret, the spell the spell tears a hole in their world, releasing the most powerful villains who've ever fought Spider-Man in any universe. Now Peter will have to overcome his greatest challenge yet, which will not only forever alter his own future, but the future of the multiverse. All right, man, what did you think of this trailer?
Yeah, I think you 100% nailed it when you read off that description that you read very well, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
I was blown away, man. That first one that we saw was great. This one was somehow even better. Like it had, It had a lot of web swinging. It had quite the bit of Doctor Strange using his magic. You kind of get a little bit more on what the story is. They introduce some new villains, and it has everybody talking like, well, what the hell is that? And did you guys see this? Is everybody else seeing what I'm seeing? And so I think it 100% like nailed it as far as like what a trailer is supposed to do and the hype that it's supposed to drum up. But what did you think, Sam?
Oh yeah, major goosebumps. It had some humor, it had some drama, it had some action in it, it had some jaw-dropping moments. I mean, yeah, you just said it best. It had everything that a trailer needed to have in it, and it was even more amazing. I got to see it this afternoon on the big screen when I was before I started watching Ghostbusters. And it looked amazing on the big screen. And even though that was like my third or fourth time to see it, I was still, jaw on the ground, still getting goosebumps, still getting hyped and excited for this. And if a trailer upon multiple rewatches does that, I mean, kudos to you. You know you've done something right. We had some pretty big confirmations with this trailer. Which one do you feel knocked it out of the park, Alex?
I like Electro's redesign. I felt like in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, they kind of took a little bit too much liberty with it. Not that it, you know, I love Jamie Foxx, and I think he was a good pick for Electro, but the costume design for him was a little weird and a little bit too different than his comic book, um, depiction. But when you see him kind of descend and float there in the sky, and he's got that signature Electro kind of star, but it's made out of electricity. I felt like that was a really good kind of redesign of that character. So that to me is probably the best, like the way that I felt like they kind of it lets me know that they listened to the critics, and they were like, oh well, everybody thought that was kind of a shitty looking, he looked like a Smurf, like an electric Smurf. But this one looks much better. So what about you, Sam? Did you see anybody that you really liked, or are you still waiting to kind of see what you see when we go see the movie? I
uh,
said a lot of C right there. Jesus.
it was always great to see Alfred Molina return as Doc Ock. He did a fantastic job in that role in Spider-Man 2. So great to see him back. Loved seeing Willem Dafoe back, or at least hearing Willem Dafoe's voice. His costume hasn't aged as well. But man, does Willem Dafoe ever just make a menacing villain? So I mean, I can look past a little bit of the cheesy costume and just hear that haunting Willem Dafoe voice, and man, it gives me goosebumps, and I love it. And like you, loved the Jamie Foxx Electro redesign. He didn't look bad in blue in Spider-Man 2. Um, but I definitely like now that he's kind of making like his costume out of like the electrical constructs. Like he's using electricity itself to kind of like form his costume around him. Visually, I think that looks really awesome. And yeah, just a great villain. Sandman looked fun, and Lizard, but don't get to see a whole lot of them. So yeah, I gotta stick with Molina, Defoe, and Fox just rocking their costumes, rocking their villainous performances. Um, they looked amazing. Now, out of all the confirmed villains, who would you most like to see stay in the MCU?
I actually like Doc Ock. I know that he's dead, and based on what the trailer says, he's gonna have to die. But I would like for some reason for him to stay into the MCU and stay as a villain. Also, I guess Dr. Connors. I'd like to see the Lizard stay because we haven't gotten a MCU portrayal of him in any of the Spider-Man movies, which I thought was kind of we're long overdue for a lot of these villains to make their appearance into the so really any of them, all of them, bring them all, let them all stay, kind of merge the universes. Let's pull out all the stops, man. What do they have to lose? It's not they've already got like the fans are gonna see the movie, so they might as well kind of let their hair down and go crazy a little bit. But what about you, Sam? I posed the same question to you.
Oh man, for me, yeah, Doc Ock, Doc Ock, Alfred Molina, just because he's kind of a conflicted villain. Like when he's in control of his arms, he makes for a really interesting and really fun character. So that would be cool to see. Uh, Beyond that, okay, I will kick Defoe out of this universe, although it hurts me to do it. Like, oh, ow, I am I am pain there. But man, just Jamie Foxx's Electro looks a like the comic book version of himself, and B, I would just like to see him get another go around as Electro. That's a great Spider-Man villain, and there's a lot of potential there, and a lot of great storylines that you could do with Electro. So definitely either yeah, like you said, Doc Ock for sure, or Electro. This is rumored to be a huge story for the future of the MCU. Alex, it's time to pull our famous tinfoil hats out out of our drawers here and put them on. Do you have any wild theories for me?
Oh man, this one's kind of difficult because they brought in the multiverse, so it is kind of hard to think of something that might be out of the box for this. I will say, I think that the end of this movie is going to kind of be a cliffhanger for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. That's going to be my tinfoil hat theory. Yep, yep. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. So when that happens, and before it cuts to black screen, and all of a sudden you're just like, what the, just remember that I said it first. Sam, I'm gonna pass this tinfoil hat to you, sir, and the floor is yours.
Okay, I've got two tinfoil hat theories here. That's right, dose tinfoil hat theories here for you. First of all, Eddie Brock shows up, and we get a Venom Spider-Man team up here at one point, and he helps him fight the Sinister Six, and we finally get to see the full uh, Venom costume from the comic book, not kind of like just a straight black costume, but I could easily see him looking at Spider-Man, kind of looking up and down, and then you see him, just kind of like make the white spider appear across his chest, like you just see it kind of like form out of the symbiote onto his chest, and yeah, we get the right proper Venom costume there, and there's a team up there with Spider-Man, and
Oh, that'd be
also
wild.
yeah, that would and also maybe there is a seventh. I know we're going for the Sinister Six here, but maybe there's a hidden seventh villain in there, and maybe just maybe we're gonna get our first peek at Craven the Hunter. And he will be hunting Spider-Man. That is my other wild theory, is that maybe like the Sinister Six is a distraction or a front to distract Spider-Man from Craven the Hunter, who is hunting him. Those are my two tinfoil hat theories for Spider-Man. Uh, Alex, before we wrap up the segment, just any final thoughts, any final uh, uh, theories on this?
My final thoughts is you guys don't jump online to try and get tickets when they go on sale because I'm going to get mine first. So just let me go ahead and pick my seats out and then you guys can have at it. Sam?
Yeah. I got a friend of mine who said, "Hey, don't worry about it. I'm buying our tickets. Just show up at the theater." And I am so lucky to have awesome friends like that. So you know what?
Nice.
My tickets are covered. Alex,
Oh,
just
look at Mr. Popular over here.
what can I say? Sometimes it's good to have friends, man. It is good to have friends. Just real quick here, wrapping this show up. What you watching? What you playing? What you reading, man?
Let's see. What am I playing right now? I'm pretty heavy into Halo. Like that new Halo Infinite. It released early. It released like a month early, and man, did they do a great job with that game. It is like, I don't know if you ever played it when you like back in your childhood, but it definitely takes you there, and it's, all those feelings come rushing back, and it's just a great time, and you just don't want to put the controller down. What am I reading right now? In preparation for Hawkeye getting ready to come out next week, I believe. I've been reading a few of the graphic novels from Hawkeye, and specifically the ones that include, Kate Bishop as well, because I want to get a little bit more kind of dust up on the character. Um, and then what am I watching? I recently started getting into. It was on Hulu, that Hit Monkey from Marvel, and it is actually not that bad. The art style is kind of a little like rough and a little choppy, but it's got good writing and good voice acting. So I'm gonna give it. I've watched a couple of episodes right now, and I think I'm gonna try and finish out the series for that before everything kind of snowballs and we get hit with all this stuff here in the wintertime. What about you, Sam? What you watching? What you playing? And what you reading?
What am I watching right now? I'm watching Kamen Rider Kuga because I just pre-ordered the Shout Factory Kamen Rider Zero One series. Shout out to my friend Randy for getting me back into the Kamen Rider series. Man, those shows are cheesy, they're fun, they're awesome. I am thoroughly enjoying them. So right now, yes, watching Kamen Rider Kuga ahead of the Kamen Rider Zero One release. What am I playing? I am currently playing the Grand Theft Auto trilogy, and I am not having the struggle that other people are having with it, and I'm not having the hatred for it other people are having for it. I'm just having fun taking a stroll down memory lane in high def graphics. The only complaint I have about that really is I went to put in like a cheat code, like I used to do back in high school, and I got the message of, hey, if you don't disable this cheat code, all trophies are locked out to you. And I'm like, come on, guys. Half the fun of those old GTA games was just putting in like the Infinity ammo code or like weapon set 2, weapon set 3, slowdown time. I mean, all that stuff just made the game way more fun for me. I turned it off, and I know I've had some friends that are like, dude, what do you care about achievements? Apparently, I do care, and apparently, I do want those little digital trophies. So I've turned off the cheats, and I am playing Grand Theft Auto trilogy. As for what am I reading, Alex, get out of my head, sir. We just had a uh, Charles Xavier Magneto moment there. I too am reading Hawkeye. I'm reading Hawkeye Volume One: My Life as a Weapon in preparation for the new Hawkeye series coming out next week. So yes, like you, I am reading Hawkeye. So yeah, that's what I'm watching, what I'm playing, what I'm reading. All right,
And
folks.
speaking of Hawkeye,
Yes,
next week that will be, I think that comes out on Thanksgiving. And
yes.
speaking of Thanksgiving, Sam, I think you have some news for the My Comic Life
Oh
fans
yeah.
regarding next week's show.
Yeah, we will be taking next week off to spend time with our friends and family. So, sorry, folks, no new show next week. But the week after Thanksgiving, we will be delving right back into all the awesome things, involving comics, video games, movie, TV, pop culture. And of course, Hawkeye will be front and center, and we will be giving you our awesome My Comic Life review of Hawkeye. But yeah, no show next week, taking that time off, like I said, just to spend time with friends and family over our Thanksgiving break. Speaking of friend of the show, shit, Kevin Smith, I'm so sorry. Just ran out of time tonight to get you on here, but we do wish you a very happy Thanksgiving, sir, and we'll try to get you on the week after Thanksgiving, we are hoping. And speaking
Yeah,
of,
sorry, man.
yeah,
Thanks for sending the card out though.
yeah, we appreciate the card, man. Man, we are so sorry about our scheduling conflicts here. And speaking of our My Comic Life fans, it is time to shout out and salute to our My Comic Life fan of the week. Our My Comic Life fan of the week is Keller Coleman from Houston, Texas. Keller, I mean, cool alliterative name there, man. We appreciate you listening and emailing us your thoughts on the show. Keller Coleman, you are our My Comic Life fan of the week. Salute to you, Keller from Houston, Texas.
salute to you, Keller, man. Glad you liked the show. I hope you get some amazing pumpkin pie next week.
All right. And hey, folks, if you want to be our My Comic Life fan of the week, email us at realmycomiclife@gmail.com. Again, that email address is realmycomiclife@gmail.com, all one word. Email us saying, hey, I want to be your fan of the week, or just email us your thoughts on the show or things you'd like to hear us talk more about. If you want to hear us talk more about video games or more about upcoming Star Wars or the upcoming Marvel series that are all about to be dropped on Disney Plus, email us at realmycomiclife@gmail.com. Please continue to like the Facebook page, message us on there. We are always happy to talk to you, and we'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And please continue to like the YouTube channel. Get your friends, get your family, get everybody you know to like that YouTube channel. Let's get our subscription numbers way up there. We're hovering at about 20. That was a hard-earned 20, and we appreciate it. But let's keep that number going. But as always, folks, ditch the herd. Be a nerd. Stay strong out there, my friends.